Hi friends, today I want to tell you about how I'm turning my entire closet into a fashion game I used to play that doesn't exist anymore. So when I was in college for fashion design, I was introduced to this game called Poupée Girl, and Poupée is French for doll, so basically the name was Doll Girl, and it was made by this Japanese company called Amoeba. So everything in the game was highly inspired by Lolita style, so Japanese Lolita style. So lots of ribbons, lots of bows, lots of frills, everything Lolita style. So these two girls in my class who introduced me to the game, I actually ended up referring to them as the Poupée girls because they would come to class dressed like their Poupée avatars. And it was so funny because they would always come late to class because they were taking so long to get ready. You could always just count on them to be like 15, 20 minutes late, and they would stroll in too with their Starbucks coffees. So it was just, they were always like really comical to kind of watch what they were going to wear and like when they were going to show up, and like unbothered, totally unbothered. So in the game, you had ribbons and you had crystals, and these were the currencies to buy outfits for your poupée to wear. You had to pay for the crystals though. So of course there was already always better things you could get with the crystals because it was paid for. So I remember like maybe once in a while buying the crystals, but like mostly I used the ribbons. So how you would get ribbons is people would upload real live pictures of their garments. So let's say like this dress I'm making, or some shoes that I bought, or like a hair clip, my glasses, whatever. You weren't allowed to put your face in it, but you would upload these items that you owned, and then you would get ribbons for uploading. But then you could go on other people's pages and comment, and you would be like, my go-to was like so cute with the two heart emojis, which I still use a lot, the pink ones. And you would get ribbons for commenting on other people's uploads as well. And in Poupée Girl, you would also get extra ribbons if you dressed up your poupée every day. And so there was a calendar, and if you dressed her up on that day, you would get a button. And for 30 days or the entire month, you would get like a bonus of, I think it was like 300 ribbons. So you didn't want to miss a day because that was like huge in terms of like buying other outfits for your poupée. And there were events, which were always fun. Like, not every day there were events, but like quite frequently there'd be events. So there'd be like themed, and during the time of the event, there'd be like, say it was Christmas event, there'd be like Christmas themed stuff in the poupée shop to buy. And remember there just being like zoo event, and there was Valentine's event and June bride, and just all kinds of different, like Chinese New Year, that was a big one. So yeah, it was really fun, and a couple of girls in my class would play this game. Eventually, unfortunately, the game got discontinued, and this is going back a long time. So actually, I can't find any pictures or too many pictures of my original poupée. But since that time, I've always been trying to find a way to like recreate this idea of a poupée girl, like a daily dress up doll, that I could somehow bring back the nostalgia of the original Poupée Girl. And then just circling back to the idea of the daily dress up, like not wanting to miss a day. I remember there was one summer where I was going on a trip somewhere like for the weekend or something, or for a few days, and I didn't want to miss dressing up my poupée. And again, this was before we had smartphones, but it was like, this was around the time of BlackBerry. So it wasn't like, there weren't apps. That's what it was. Like, this was a desktop computer game. And so it's not something you could access by on your phone. It never was an app. So I remember not wanting to miss a day dressing up my poupée. And I remember getting my mom, giving her like my login code and being like, Mom, like dress up my poupée, and like calling her and being like, you didn't forget, right? Like, you dressed her up. And then it was funny to come home and like see the outfits my mom had put like on my poupée. So another thing I remember about Poupée Girl was you were mainly like in your bedroom, and so that's when there were no events going on. You had like your wallpaper, which you could change the color of, and there was a little bird that hopped around in the room, and you had a dresser. But during the events, there were like themed backgrounds, which was always fun. And I remember there was this place you could go. Sometimes you would just find these shells, and then you would throw the shells into like the water fountain or something, and then you would get a bonus surprise item to dress up your poupée. But those normally the ones from the fountain like weren't as good as the ones you could buy from the poupée market. And then I guess something that was kind of challenging at the time, because again, circling back to the fact that this was before really like iPhones were popular, this was like in the heyday of BlackBerry. I remember that's when I also had like a digital camera. So it wasn't like your phone was your camera. So to take pictures of your items and upload them, it wasn't exactly like easy. It wasn't like just straight from your phone onto this game. It was like you had to like get your camera specifically and like take these pictures and then like plug your camera into the computer and then upload the pictures onto the site and everything. So it was fun, but it was just like a different time. Oh, and then this is kind of bad, but whenever we had like a computer class, so normally we were in the fashion design room or like the sewing room, but whenever we had a computer class, so like sometimes for fashion design, we would be in Photoshop, or we had a grading class that was like always on the computer. So whenever we were in the computer lab, of course, like we would always have a screen with like our poupée in the background and like playing during class. So that was funny. So you could probably, if you Googled, you could probably like find a lot of online forums of people being sad about the discontinuation of Poupée Girl. And of course, if you Google images, you can definitely like find, I'll put some on the screen, find some pictures of what like Poupée Girl used to look like. But yeah, since it was discontinued, I first off started drawing a little poupée, and there's been different iterations of it over the years. Like one thing, as my art has gotten better, like she's kind of I started drawing her by hand and like with watercolor. And then I got my first iPad with the iPen, Apple Pen. So I started drawing her in Procreate. And then that was fun because you can do the layers. And so you could save like the different, like an actual digital paper doll, and like save the items of clothing and like swap them out, the shoes and the garments that I would put on my poupée. But the challenge always has been like to find a good system to house, like to save and store these items in a way that I can browse and be like, oh, what shoes do I want to wear today, rather than like sorting through all these files on my iPad. Um, but I've come up with a way to use an app called Stylebook, and that's what this video is about. And to kind of gamify this whole idea, like to make it like Poupée, I can only wear the things that I have digitized. So that's my rule. So of course, starting off, I only have a few tops, a few skirts, a few, shoes, accessories. So I can only mix and match what I've already digitized into my Poupée closet. That's my rule. So of course, as I go along over time, I'm going to keep adding. And then the more you add, the more options for your daily outfits to choose from. And doing events is something that I've always kind of gravitated towards since having played Poupée Girl back in the day. So of course I do want to design around events. It's something I've always kind of done anyways. So, I just had the whole Easter event, and like coming up, there'll be summer events, Boots and Hearts again, back to school, all of that kind of thing. So that's something I'm kind of including. And that's, again, in keeping with the original idea of Poupée Girl. So I still do want to continue to do also my 9 heads kind of style fashion illustration drawings, but I'm going to be integrating that into this whole system as well, which is something I will show you in the Stylebook as well. So this is Stylebook, and as I mentioned, it's the app I'm going to be using to gamify my wardrobe. On the left-hand menu, you'll see there's a lot of cool features, but today we're going to be focusing on closet, looks, inspiration, and calendar. In the closet tab, I've created all the categories for all of my different wardrobe items. Under bottoms, I have jeans, and this is where I've digitized a pair of jeans that I've designed. And I talk about these jeans in a video I've made called Everything I've Made Out of Denim. I also have skirts in my bottom category. This is a skirt from my Easter collection, and this is another denim skirt that I made. On the right-hand side, you'll see there's a space to enter all the different details about your clothing. If you click to edit, you can choose what color the item is, and that way later on you can search for items by color. So let's say it was St. Patrick's Day, you could search up everything that it was a specific color of green. I'm going to mark this blue for denim, dark blue, and you can have what kind of fabric it was made from. Let's type in that this was made from denim. We'll use the keyboard to type that now. and save that. You can say what season, what size, you know, and again, you can search up all of the items for spring or summer, whatever the season is. You can enter how much the item costs, and all of those details will be saved to that particular item of clothing. Next, let's look at my shoes, and I have a category called boots. So these are all of the boots that I've owned and I've digitized so far. These are my high heel Timberlands. And there's a button for extra pictures. And so what I've done is I've put the actual picture of my actual Timberlands so that way I can see what those look like along with my digitized item of clothing. Next, under looks, this is where it's really starting to look like Poupée Girl. These are some looks I've already worn and some looks I'm planning for the future. So let's go ahead and click on this first look here, and I'm going to show you how I can add to that. So I click to edit, and it's going to bring up the closet again. And from the closet, I will pick another necktie. So I'm wearing the pink necktie, but I also have the same necktie in purple. And by the way, this is a necktie that is from my Player 2 Patterns collection of patterns, and I'll put the link for that in the description. So I can add this purple one. I can add it to anywhere I want on the photo. I can resize it, or I can even remove it if it was put there by mistake. And this is where you really get to mix and match, sort through all of your items in your closet, and come up with different looks for your avatar. So this is the fun part. Okay, so next we're going to head over to the calendar view and then take a look at that section. So these are all the outfits I've already worn this week, and let's go ahead and click on the next open square, which is the 16th, and we are going to add a look to that day. So let's scroll through some of the looks we've designed. I'll pick the Star Wars one, and I added it to the calendar date of the 16th, and so now you see this is my entire week of outfits I've worn. And next I want to show you the inspiration tab, so let's click on that, and I'm going to click on my Star Wars inspiration. And you can see some different images that are inspiring me for a Star Wars collection and my sketch of Cara 3PO, which is the Star Wars outfit that I'm making this year. So this is just another way I can plan to build looks. So I'm going to go into look and I'm going to create a look based off of my Star Wars inspiration. So I can start to bring in items from my closet to see, will these look good with my inspiration, or is there something missing? Do I need to make something to come up with this concept? Do I need to buy another accessory? But here I'm scrolling through. So I've added these gold boots, but maybe these aren't the best look that go with it. So I'm going to, test out these boots. How do they look with the Star Wars outfit? Now I can kind of compare and start to build my look in the inspiration section. Okay, so that's the history behind Poupée Girl, and that is how I am using the Stylebook app to kind of recreate the magic of Poupée Girl. And who knows, maybe one day they'll bring back Poupée Girl eventually, but until then, I am recreating my own fun with Poupée Girl my way. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video and you like my designs and you like Poupée Girl, please consider subscribing.